I like it. Great. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I will try to stay as always and get everyone's questions till the end. Who wants to go first?
There was a real scary moment with Joey after his match where all the medics came to the ring, a bunch of referees, agents. How is Joey and everything like that?
Joey's absolutely going to be okay. I wanted to get everyone out to check on him immediately and called for people right away. When the referee called for help, sent people, and Jack was back there, and Jack and Joey are super tight. Jack wanted to come in and check on Joey as a friend, and yeah, it was he's totally going to be okay, and I think he'll be at Dynamite in Nashville on Wednesday.
The judges concept is a really cool concept, having the 3 judges there for the world title match. I wondered, what's the plan going forward in terms of having judges? Is it kind of as and when it calls for? Is it all the time? What's the strategy going forward?
Yeah, I think like when we have really big matches where we want to make sure that there's not going to be a draw, if we have 3 judges and say there has to be a winner, at least it gives people the guarantee that like if there's a draw, there'll be a vote and there's going to be a winner. So at least it'll give that finality. So that's kind of the idea. So I think for big title matches, you might see it.
Tony, Chris felt that having Dean Malenko out there was unfair due to their past rivalry. Did he by any voice any concerns to you about that before the match? Because he definitely got into it with Dean a little bit during.
Yeah, that was great. I think we thought that might happen, and we thought that would be like great wrestling television. So that was part of it. But frankly, like Dean's like a official of the company, and like you expect Dean to be professional, and I think Dean would like vote for the best man. I don't think like anybody would think Malenko would be an impartial kind of guy. I think that's what made it work, and I think that's what why it's great for the fans and why everyone liked it, because like Dean Malenko kind of represents the kind of great champion that you'd expect to have like integrity as a judge.
Tony, for a long-time wrestling fan, what is it like for you to have an event in an iconic building like this?
It's really cool because I've followed events my whole life in this building. It's a great building with a lot of history in wrestling, and I've frankly, like it's no secret that like I've played around writing wrestling shows my whole life, and I'd be lying if I said I hadn't written a lot of shows here. It's my first full gear here. I've done a lot of Dynamites here, but I've never done it. But it was honestly very special. I think if I had to go to like an island, I was just saying this to people before I came in. If I had to go to like the desert island, if I could only take maybe like 2 pay-per-views, I'd probably take Double or Nothing and Full Gear.
So we heard your voice on a Dynamite. Are we ever going to see you as a permanent?
That was not like an intention to make like insert me as like a character or anything. It's just the fact is like obviously it's not a secret that I'm the owner of the company, and I have final say over everything we do at AEW. So that the idea that the match would not be sanctioned, that for such a huge match we'd be doing something that would really shift the focus of the match, and as you saw from the kind of match we were doing and the story that I think was trying to be told, and what we wanted to deliver in terms of providing like just frankly a badass wrestling match and a cool lights out concept, like it was really just me delivering the news, and I think that's a realistic thing. And the camera had followed John back from the time limit draw, and I think he was looking to see me, but really like everyone knows that like I don't want to interject myself in that way, and like frankly it wasn't really my idea. John kind of came to me, as you saw.
What type of conversations do you have with the Maryland State Athletic Commission to have an unsanctioned match here tonight?
We said like kind of what we were looking to do, and I think like everything was frankly like safe, and the guys didn't do anything that really would have put either of them in like harm's way to the point where we didn't feel good enough about doing it. But like certainly the idea that it would have made sense in the context of a wrestling match also didn't make sense. So certainly with like the rules of the world of professional wrestling, like you couldn't sanction that match. Like the ring got ripped apart and all kinds of crazy things happened. So that's the thought process. But it was all good with them.
What about Cody's cut as well to continue that match? It was very big.
The doctor immediately saw Dr. Sampson, who's like one of the best known doctors in professional wrestling, and has obviously done some of the best stuff in professional wrestling in the history of ringside doctors. Went in and checked and thought it was okay, and we sent him in immediately, and he reported back he thought it was good and kept the match going.
Tony, there was a report that Jimmy Havoc and Excalibur got into a fight in front of you on Thursday. Anything you can comment on?
I wouldn't call it a fight, but like I've seen a lot worse, and I was in the world of football, both in England and the NFL. I've seen a lot worse, and I saw a lot worse tonight. But yeah, they scrapped around, but the next that was cool. It was cool. It was cool yesterday. It's cool today. It's fine.
Tony, will that count towards Excalibur's record in AEW?
I wouldn't. It would be a draw. I think if we're at best. But
Keeping in mind your comments about not being an on-screen figure, and we just had Jericho and Hangman kind of throw out their own challenges, are you going to take the talent, consider their suggestions into consideration, or are you really looking at like what's the best match?
no, we're
week to
doing
week?
those matches. Those matches, we can. They were gonna. I mean, since are you asking me if those were doing the matches they asked about?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
those
on the
specific
bigger picture.
matches. Yeah, I think we do take that into consideration, and we were gonna, I think, confirm that coming out of here because I'm good to confirm those matches. So we will sanction those matches. So yeah, this week on Dynamite, it will be Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Scorpio Sky and Kazarian for the tag team title, and we'll see if the Inner Circle can take all the championships in AEW. And it was big for Chris, and it was a big night. It's his birthday, and for him to lay down that challenge, I think SCU want the match, and that's a huge match for Dynamite. So it is going to be the Inner Circle versus SCU for the tag title, and then Hangman Page came in and he wants a rubber match with Pac. And the last time they were in the Scrum, it went very differently. Like Pac was the one who came in and wanted in the Scrum. This time, I think Hangman, even though he won tonight, and a lot of people thought he would feel like he kind of settled it, he feels like there's unsettled business. So that's definitely going to be another huge match on Dynamite. So yeah, we're going to do that. It's going to be Hangman versus Pac also.
What's the next
So the
schedule for pay-per-view?
AEW's women's division.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
The AEW's women's division. The title match was about 13 minutes, and then the other match was in the pre-show. Been reading a lot of criticisms. Being worried about the lack of time in the women's.
There
division.
wasn't originally supposed to women's match. The Brit B. I've had, so just so you know, I feel very strongly about that program. I was very heavily involved in the layout of that program from the beginning. I worked on the women's battle royal, casino battle royal in All Out, and very closely with them. And the idea of planning we wanted Brit and B to be a major issue for a really long time, and they've been seeds we planted for a long time ever since Britt first got hurt to work it into a big feud with a major personal issue. And I think the promos that both of them have done built it into a huge match. I wanted it to be on the pay-per-view. I felt a lot of, like I said, we put a lot of involvement into it. It was probably the first match that I myself had that much involvement in actually laying out, was the Battle Royale, where they were the final two along with Nyla, and they kind of knocked each other out when B kind of screwed over Britt. And so I wanted it to be on the pay-per-view, but because of some timing circumstances, and in terms of somebody having a personal situation that was completely understandable, we ended up moving another match that was going to be on the buy-in originally, the way we had it laid out, even as recently as a week ago. We switched it, but originally that was going to be on the pay-per-view. That was important to have both those matches on the show.
So how do you ensure that the division keeps growing and keeps getting a bigger spotlight as you guys grow and move forward?
Well, it's really important to us. Work really closely with Kenny Omega and Brandy. Constantly looking for talent. We've been signing. We'll be able to maybe announcing more talent we've signed. We've been debuting more people recently. So I think in the women's division, we're constantly debuting new wrestlers. You've seen Jamie Hayter and Shanna have made appearances, and obviously tonight I thought the women's title match was excellent. Rio's been a great fighting champion and been in a lot of great matches, and I think we'll keep seeing Rio in great matches, and Rio will keep being a great fighting champion. And like I said, with B and Britt, it was a great story, and I don't think we've seen the end of that. And I'm really excited about what Jamie Hayter and Shanna have done lately too, and Sheeta is awesome. So I think we have a lot of awesome things cooking in the women's division, and then with Awesome Kong, that was a big new surprise with Brandy and Awesome Kong also.
Thank you.
Tony, does the MJF factor change Cody never challenging for the title?
Well, it was the agreement they made was that Cody was not going to challenge for the title again if he lost this match, and he did lose the match, and I think that as we understand the stipulation, that it wouldn't change it. I think MJF was his corner threw in the towel. That was the way it was written. So.
Is there anything you could talk about the next pay-per-view, when, where it's going to be?
Yeah, I think I've said from the beginning, I really feel we want to do the best thing for our fans in terms of giving them value for the shows and giving a great quarterly pay-per-view experience, and we're going to keep doing that. It's no secret that Double or Nothing, All Out, now Full Gear are big quarterly brands for us. So in Q1 there will be something. We'll make an announcement very soon But you'll expect, given that we're doing Double or Nothing Memorial Day again, and that's happening. Double or Nothing 2 is happening, and given that we're doing these big quarterly shows, I think tonight, you can expect to see shows of caliber of Double or Nothing and All Out and Full Gear, and there's going to be another one on that kind of Mount Rushmore quarterly big pay-per-view shows that we want to give people, and I'll make an announcement along with all of us here soon. I'm really excited about it, but I can't give you all the details about it yet, but it's going to be awesome.
Hangman said it was going to be cowboy shit and he wanted to have the chaps in the entrance. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's super legit. I've always supported the idea of Hangman wearing chaps like all the time, so that's awesome.
Are they going to remain in the same cities?
I can't necessarily say whether they'll all be in the same cities, but Double or Nothing will be in Vegas. Double or Nothing is going to be at the MGM Grand, and All Out is going to be in Chicago. Yeah, so those are that I can say. And Baltimore's been awesome. I mean, the sport we had here was amazing. I don't know. I don't have anything committed yet, but I think it's certainly something we want to do.
Tony, can I ask you a little bit about the ratings? Kind of in the US and the UK, the ratings have been really good. You guys, you've hit 1 million a few times. You have been the biggest wrestling show on Wednesday nights so far. Even the UK, the numbers have been pretty good. How are you feeling about it? How are the networks feeling about it? Is it above expectations? Are you reaching expectations? People are kind of curious, I think.
Yeah, we've I think we've at times doubled expectations. We've been, every week we've been way above the expectation and done really well. And if you told me going in, at this point that, when I saw you guys, because the last time I saw you, a lot of you guys was after Washington D.C., the debut of Dynamite. And after that, we found out we did very well in the rating, and then since then, the shows have continued to do well. And also, it's really important to me that they've been really good. Like last week's show was awesome. If I had to go to like I said before, if I had to go to the desert island with 2 pay-per-views, like same thing. If I had to go to desert island with 2 TV shows, one of them would definitely be Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh, the 4th episode, that's the best episode of wrestling television I've ever seen, personally. Like with all the great wrestling on that show and the concourse brawl. Like to have an angle that hot and the amount of good wrestling we got into one show, I thought that show was fantastic good. Like 5 amazing matches, and another match that was to me was very good, and like one of the hottest angles I've seen on TV, all in a 2-hour wrestling show, and it all fit in there, and it just all came together. That's a perfect show to me. Philadelphia was also right there, and then this past week in Charlotte, it'd be a tough choice for me between Philadelphia and Charlotte. And to me, we just have to keep trying to do stuff like that every week. I'm really excited that we already going into this week now, coming out of such an awesome pay-per-view. Now you guys know the Inner Circle is challenging for the tag team championship. Chris and Sammy have been really hot. Chris and Sammy have a valid point. They hadn't really put their hat in the ring, so to speak, as a tag team to be in the rankings, but they have been undefeated as a tag team, and they weren't in the top 5, but they are undefeated as a tag team. They absolutely merit consideration, so we are going to do that match. And then Hangman Page versus Pac, the rubber match, I think is going to be huge. So yeah, that's the idea. I'm really happy with the ratings, but the big thing to me, people, in England, I hope everyone's happy getting the show on the hub. I know we hadn't announced it right away that there was going to be a solution for everybody on Thursday to get the show, but I was just in London, and the availability is so wide, the awareness of Full Gear was so great, because I think also with England making the Rugby World Cup final, the amount of promotion we got with ITV covering the Rugby World Cup was amazing, because everybody was watching the Rugby World Cup, which was a huge percentage of the people in England were seeing tons of ads for Full Gear. So everyone was coming up to me asking me about it.
We also spoke to Cody yesterday at the panel, and he had said he doesn't want to be reactionary with the Wednesday night shows. He wants for you guys to concentrate and put on your own show. He said he even asked for the other program to be turned off of a monitor. Are you kind of in the same position?
We've literally never once in 6 weeks. I mean, it's not. I don't know if it would ever. If there was ever consideration of turning it on, we never turned it on in the first. It's never been on.
No, just what he said. But you kind of with him, and that you don't.
Well, we don't even have a monitor. All we have is all of our cameras and then our whatever. But there's never been a monitor showing NXT in our office.
But you kind of share with him about not being reactionary on the shows, just concentrating and doing your
own thing. We've never once changed anything. Never once in 6 weeks have we ever changed anything based on what they're doing. It's just to do the best show we can do, because the limitation is you have 2 hours and you have to please your fans and your advertisers, and it's important to please them both, and you want to keep the show going for the sake of everyone. And it's just really important to me, because in the course of the year, I don't know if I'll see all you guys again for a Scrum, but in the course of a year, because anybody who was in Jacksonville at the beginning of the year, we're doing the anniversary show in Memphis. It'll be we're going back to Jacksonville 51 weeks later for the New Year's Day show, and then 52 weeks after we'll be in Memphis. It'll be a year from when we started in Jacksonville in the parking lot of the stadium and where we've come. But like we've shifted wrestling. Wednesday night is the night to watch wrestling now. And like think about what we've done in a year. We've done a few of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen. You know, and then what we've done for TV has shifted the landscape completely. So I'm really proud. But like tonight's pay-per-view, I'm just like really happy for the guys because like to be here, everybody's fine. We were out with like any serious injuries, thankfully, and I'm really happy for them because like you know a lot of guys like sacrificed. I guess that you know they did. I mean, everybody's a part of this awesome company, but there were people that like when they came here, they didn't know what they were getting into. Like I had the greatest conversation with like Trent after his match because like Trent's somebody I really believed in. I told him when he came like he had a spot, and like when he came here, I told him like I believe in you. Like you're somebody I've liked for years, and I really want you to be here. And then I I wanted him in this spot. It was my idea. Like we put him in a great spot, and he did really well in the rating. And it showed that people are invested in the best friends and Trent, and that Pac is a big headline star. They drew a great rating if you look at the numbers. And also it was like a star making coming out performance I thought for Trent. And he walked back and he said, hey man, thank you for believing in me, thank you for trusting me, thank you for putting me in that spot. And I said, I told you. And he said, yeah, I know, man, I'm glad I left Japan. And it's AJ Awesome. Oh, there's anyway. And I had a response that will not say for the camera. But in all seriousness, no. I'm just really happy for them because to your question about the ratings, yeah, we're doing really well. But I'm happy for those guys because a lot of people made risks to come here and they weren't sure it was going to work out, and he was nervous about it and it worked out for him.
So speaking of ratings,
great ratings in Canada on TSN, moving to TSN 1 very soon. Do you have a timeline on when you'll do shows in Canada? Will Canada get the first non-US show, and which cities are you actually?
It's certainly a possibility Canada could get the first non-US, so I think it's possible. We'd like to do shows all over the world. We have so many great international partners, but I think we certainly would like to go to Canada. I would really like to go to England. London is like one of my hometowns. I love it, and I would love to go there to the UK and specifically to London. But I would also like to go to Canada.
No timeline on when?
I don't have exact dates in 2020, but exactly yet. But I would like to do that.
So speaking of ratings and AEW being red hot, you signed one of the best free agents in Jake Hager. Has Bellator had any conversations about your method of success and how maybe they can latch on to it to kind of start creating more stars?
They've reached out. They've been nice. I think they're nice guys. I think I don't really know them very well. They haven't really. I haven't had a lot of personal conversations with them about like promoting or anything. I think it's very different spaces, but there's some similarities between promoting wrestling and promoting MMA. But I think it's really different products.
We know in the past they tried to work relationships like that, and again, I think for businesses AEW that's so hot right now, I couldn't imagine them saying, "Hey, you got one of our stars. You're making them bigger now. What can we do to get part of this conversation?"
We haven't really talked much about that, but sure, I can see that.
So you talk about the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, what a heck of a moment for them tonight. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of bringing in legends like that, introducing them? This is a new audience, seeing them, a lot of them for the first time, really getting that. What's the importance of bringing them in for AEW, and just your reaction for, a Suicide?
That was so I'm a huge fan of the Rock and Roll Express, but that was 100% the Young Bucks idea, and the Young Bucks they're idols, and I was 100% for it because they're idols of mine too. I'm obsessed with tag wrestling, the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express in all the different territories, Rock and Roll Express against the Heavenly Bodies, both the Stan Lane and the Jimmy Del Rey iterations, the Rock and Roll Express, against the Andersons, and the Steel Cage, and so many, the Russians, and I just think those guys are great. And to bring Ricky and Robert in, though, that was all Matt and Nick, and it was a great idea. And then to extend it and then get them in for the pay-per-view, in cities where the guys have had a history and wrestled some great matches, I just think it's awesome. And a lot of the great cities that have a great tradition of wrestling, those are the cities we've tried to hit. And if you look, there's a theme of where we've been doing shows. I think it's places that have had a great tradition of wrestling.
Were you privy to the conversation when they were laying out the match?
Yeah, we lay out. I'm privy to all conversations with everything being laid out. I do have I know.
Was it Ricky's idea to do the dive, or was that still with the Bucks?
I don't know whose idea. Okay, I don't know whose idea what we were doing is, but I know that it was all everything we were doing was those guys were going to be safe, and it was all stuff that they could do, and it was all. I was just really happy that they were able to get that it all came off the way it did, because like for Ricky and Robert to pull that off, it was really special for them, and I think they were really happy to be given the opportunity. But I was honestly glad that they graced us with their presence, because like I mean they're probably to have that, and honestly them and the Bucks, like two of the great teams of all time in my opinion. It was special to have them out there, and we've really been trying to make the tag team division very special. That's a huge focus on our company. Like you notice, a lot of the most over acts we have are tag teams, and I'm really proud of what we've done. I mean, SCU are great champions, and what we've done to establish Private Party, I think, has been huge. And then we have the other great teams with the Young Bucks, the Lucha Brothers, and now Santana and Ortiz, and a lot of other ones. Dark
Well,
Order.
with ratings being so strong, a lot more advertisers reaching out to you at AEW.
Yeah, we're doing really well. I'm very happy with it, because we share in the success of the advertising on this show, and it's a high-profile primetime show, and it's going really well. Yeah, we have some really exciting stuff with the advertising partnership to announce.
Couple more
really soon.
questions.
Tony, we saw
Come on.
Tully Blanchard really make a difference. It seemed like it was '88 in that Baltimore arena. Will we see Tully give a promo on Dynamite anytime soon?
Yeah, we'll definitely hear from Tully. I think we'll keep hearing from Tully, and I think he'll keep being involved, for better or for worse. But yeah, it's definitely not the last to see of Tully. He's been a huge addition. I can take a few more. I really appreciate all you guys coming, so thank you.
In terms of timing, you talked about television, but in terms of the pay-per-view tonight, you had a really dramatic main event title match, and then you also had the lights out match. Is that something we should expect in terms of the dramatic and long tempo of those matches, or could a lights out match, for instance, end sooner?
Well, we've had other lights out. I don't think that we've had, the other lights out matches maybe weren't this epic. But we've, when Kenny and Joey was long, but it wasn't this long. Joey and John was long, but it wasn't at Fyter Fest. Wasn't quite this long. But I think you don't know. I think it's unpredictable. That's what's great about our pay-per-views. And in this case, those were like two incredible epic matches to close the show. But I don't know if I've seen a better match to start a show than Young Bucks against Santana and Ortiz, and then to come right out with Hangman Pac. And we had so many great things through the show. So I was really happy with it.
You noted 3 lights out matches that are in a pretty short period of time. Is this going to be a regular thing for AEW, where you present these pretty often?
I think it's like a very reasonable look at thing that the company, if we can't sanction these matches, like we can kind of turn a blind eye to it, like flip the lights out. It's been gone, tale as old as time. It's been done in wrestling companies and territories for a long time. The concept of the lights out matches, the company, we weren't going to be held responsible or liable for what happens in the match. When you saw in this case, they tore the ring apart.
Yeah.
Moxley and Omega and Janela are the only guys that have been involved in them. But these guys are unpredictable. They'll tear the ring apart, tear the building apart, and we can't sanction it. So it's at the end of the night. We kind of don't count them because of the nature of the match. They go all over the place.
Sure, but will they be regular? Will we see a
I
lot
don't
of
think
these?
we'll see. I mean, in the course of a year, we've seen those 3, and it's not something I expect to see that often. But certainly, in the case of what's happened with Omega and Moxley, I thought was very appropriate, and that was certainly the appropriate match and the appropriate way to kind of do it tonight, because you didn't know what those guys are going to do, and I'm glad we made it the lights out match tonight, because they literally tore the ring apart, and we wouldn't have been able to continue the show after they ripped the ring to pieces.
So getting back to last Wednesday, I got to ask you about Jericho's video package. Very creative. What was the process in putting that together, and can you talk a little bit about the effectiveness of it?
It was Chris's idea, because after Cody's video package, Chris had the idea to parody Cody's video. It's a shot-for-shot remake. A lot of people, it's amazing to me, across friends in Hollywood and sports, in the NFL, there's so many people that loved it, but a good percentage of people just loved it and didn't realize that it's a shot-for-shot remake of Cody's video. They just thought it was great in and of itself, and I think that's great satire. And I think that's when you know something is kind of hits. So, Chris, it was his idea, and he worked really closely with the guys at Comeback Studios, and Kevin Sullivan and Comeback have put together great video packages for us. But Chris was very hands-on.
So 2 production questions. The AEW Twitter tweeted out a picture that did have a USA monitor on that. Care to comment?
Where?
On their Twitter account tonight, they showed a picture of the production truck, and there was a monitor for USA.
Yeah, that's not I don't know what they're watching in the truck. I'm just talking about the
Gotcha.
position where I'm at. We don't have a TV that would even have cable on it. It's just we have the feed of our own show, and then I have the 8 to 10 cameras that we choose to go from. So yeah, I don't know what they could be. I think sometimes they have football during So I don't know between stuff's going on during the day. But you meant during the show. I don't know what they're. I can't really be there and be in the position by the but but the gorilla position, so I can't do both.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify because you said the monitor wasn't on, but then.
Oh, I don't know if they. Well, I don't know what they are. I just meant in my position where I am,
Okay.
like where because well maybe and they could have been referring to the truck too. I was saying like I've never seen a monitor on where I am.
Gotcha.
Like yeah, I can't speak to the truck. I go out in the truck like before the show for VTRs, but that would be like long before anybody else's show. That's like before the sun goes down.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then second one, people were commenting that the crowd didn't sound as loud tonight, but in the arena it obviously sounded pretty loud. People who watched on TV said it wasn't as loud. Was the crowd mic'd differently? Or
I sounded well. I was see it sounded super loud because I was sitting. I'm sitting right behind the curtain, so it sounded. To me, it sounded super loud too. So if it didn't sound as loud on TV.
Yeah, that's what people
Well,
said.
it's hard. We'll have to go back and watch because I was just there, But as we were, it sounded super loud because I was sitting in under the. But yeah, we'll see. I thought that was a great crowd. It was obviously we had a great turnout. We sold a lot of tickets late. It was so I was super happy with it. I thought the crowd sounded really good, but I'll have to watch and see. It's interesting. Maybe we have to check with the acoustics when we come back. Maybe mic it differently. But I thought it was a great crowd.
Tony, you talked about being comfortable with the concept of the lights out match tonight coming in, but as you watched the match unfold, did you have any second thoughts about
Oh, it was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. I was very concerned for both guys because they're obviously two of the biggest stars, not just two of the biggest stars in AEW, but two of the biggest stars in wrestling. So obviously, like in sports and wrestling being no different, you always worry about like injuries. And in the case of both guys, I was very concerned about both their well-being and also just like even if it's just a short-term injury, something that's going to keep them from being able to compete on Dynamite because we need them. And I'm not sure. Hopefully, Kenny will be available. If Kenny's not back this week, I don't think it's anything that's going to keep Kenny out super long-term. But certainly, Kenny had a rough night in John, and it was no picnic for him either. But yeah, we were concerned about it for sure. But it was a great match. We were really happy with it. I think the fans seemed like they really liked the show from what I've heard. I'm glad. It seems like I'm glad you guys liked it.
One more question, please.
Sure.
You just noted that you had a big walk-up market tonight. Is that encouraging that, like you're looking at the pre-sale figures, like maybe you're not selling as much, but knowing that, you have a hot market like this that might come out the day of and
It's
give you a
really
better crowd?
encouraging, yeah. But it was like honestly, I really attribute a lot of it to the wrestlers and the hard work they did promoting the show. Because like SCU went out and did some promotional work, and like so Scorpio Sky and Kazarian, they've been great as tag team champions representing the company. Chris Jericho's gone out and done some media work, and Cody and Brandy went out and did some really good work. And I think it made a huge difference in the time running up to the show and the local community here in Baltimore. And also, Washington, D.C., not far away, there's been so many great people that have really supported us in these markets. And really up the East Coast, we just had incredible support. So I wasn't surprised by it. That's been like a theme with our shows. We've had a lot of instant sellouts. And when we haven't had instant sellouts, we've had those kind of great walk-ups because, our wrestlers are really engaged with like the fans. By the way, if there's anybody that came a long way and hasn't got a chance to ask a question yet, I feel terrible. So if there's,
I got one more question.
Sure.
So historic cities. How about Richmond, Virginia?
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia would be a great city. That's honestly a city I would absolutely love to run. I think that would be a great place for us to run. We haven't booked it yet, but as we go, I think that'll be announced. I was really excited. We just announced, Jacksonville and Memphis is the first two cities of 2020, and I think that Jacksonville is obviously my home, and there's a great tradition of wrestling, both Florida wrestling and WCW ran Jacksonville a lot. And now, for us, we established Fight for the Fallen there. I'm excited to go there. I'm excited to go to Memphis. Richmond would be great, and I'll definitely put that on the list. I'll talk about that with Raph.
Is Madison Square Garden on the list at one point?
Well, certainly is a building we've had talks with, and I would love to run a show in New York. Certainly, we've been very popular in New York. We've been the #1 wrestling show in the 18 to 49 demographic in New York City on any night, not just on Wednesday, on cable. And so that's pretty great. And for me, I would love to go to New York, and MSG is a great building there, but there's a lot of great buildings that we could run in New York. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys always coming to these. I think we'll announce soon when the next Scrum is. Certainly the next pay-per-view we'll have one, but I think maybe between now and then we'll have one at TV. And I really appreciate those of you who keep coming to these, always coming. And thank you for coming and covering the show, supporting us. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, please reach out. I'm going to, between now and the next Dynamite, try and do some more interviews. And certainly at some of the TV shows, if any of you guys want to come to Dynamite, even though we don't have the Scrum, I can do interviews and stuff. Thank you for coming.
Cool. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Hey.
during that. I don't know. Fucking one solid show.